should we be preparing for an AI takeover?
But there's a lot of fear. The reality is that people aren't ready, companies aren't ready, governments aren't ready.
Welcome to another episode of Cup of Joe. Today is a very special day where we're going to be talking about AI, how it supports recruitment, how it can support you and your community, and all other factions. We have Peter Pilarski here from CIPR Communications. Peter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So to get things kicked off, I want to ask you, what should a business's first steps in AI be?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So a couple things. Number one, first of all, they should have a sort of a belief system about AI. So, really, do they use AI? Do they believe it? Who can use it, right? So you should just have conversations in your company about sort of what we believe about this technology and what it can do. So that's, I think, number one. Number two, you should probably, engage in some training and education related to AI. So, there's lots of it out there. Go to webinars, go to seminars, find some training that makes sense for you, just to understand what it all means, where the limitations are, sort of, that type of thing, right? So I think that's a really important thing. Number three, I would say is, have a group of people within your company who are sort of an AI council or some kind of AI committee that can sort of look at artificial intelligence holistically and sort of decide where it may or may not fit in their organization, right? So, have conversations, talk about your policies and procedures, figure out what problems you're trying to solve as a company, test some use cases, come back, weekly or bi-weekly, whatever makes sense for your company, sure. and sort of just be talking about it, right? Have ongoing conversations. I think the next important thing is to really have a foundational starting point of where AI can help. So my company, we offer something called an artificial intelligence business assessment. Okay. And so really it's really a series of really structured, detailed conversations around, how does your company use technology? How does your company use data? How good are your systems and processes? Where do you think there's opportunities for artificial intelligence in your company? And it sort of structures a conversation, and then we sort of produce a report as a result of that conversation. And that really helps you kind of develop step 5, which is develop an AI roadmap, right? So How are we going to do this over time? What does success look like, right? So those types of things. And the AI BA is really important because, a lot of companies come to me and say, oh yeah, I want to start using AI, or I want to start using ChatGPT, how can I help my business? And that's the wrong conversation to have, because really you should be starting off with, do I have repetitive tasks that use data? Do I have data?
Right.
Do I have clean systems and processes, right?
Right.
Because garbage in, garbage out, right? So, before you're talking about AI, you really need to start foundationally in your company and understand what inputs are going to go in order to get the outputs you're looking for.
Very, very cool. That garbage in, garbage out, that's something that comes up a lot in these webinars. And you're absolutely right. Like having that, having those systems in place, do you even have the data? Like all those things are really, really important factors. We talk about this all the time when we're talking about marketing automation and integrating directly through to CRMs and bilateral integrations and things like that. But you're talking about taking that a step further and using AI to support, which is very, very cool.
Yeah. And I'll give you a really cool example of a fishing lodge that I'm working with right now. So they have a CRM, a Zoho CRM, and then they basically run their entire operations on a spreadsheet, and the two things don't talk. Right? And so we said, okay, you know what? Actually, now we have tools that can help make the two things talk and produce automated outputs in terms of, here's your itinerary for this group of people fishing or whatever it is, right? So all of a sudden you have tools now that can go on top of the things you're doing and the systems and processes and just make things work. So it's super exciting, I think, for companies.
I love that. Yeah. So tell me, should we be preparing for an AI takeover?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say that at this point right now, no. AI is a very, very hot topic. Everybody's talking about it. There's a lot of fear. We see a lot in the media about it. It's going to take over our jobs. It's going to take over our lives. And I'm a practical guy, a pragmatist. And, to me, I see it as, I like to think about AI as an augmentation tool. So just like you're wearing glasses right now, it helps you see. They help you see. AI really is a good augmentation tool to help people think, to help augment the thinking process, the strategy process. At some point in the far future, maybe, but I would say in the short term, even in the medium term, not at all. Companies are going to slow down the adoption of AI. So the technology is moving quickly, and we see all this stuff all the time. But the reality is that people aren't ready, companies aren't ready, governments aren't ready, even the energy sector is not ready. Like AI is extremely energy intense. Sam Altman talks about, in order for us to reach, artificial general intelligence, which is, something they're talking about quite openly. He said we need to have an energy revolution in the world before we can have enough energy to even power the ability to do that. So I think that there's a lot of hype and a lot of excitement for a good reason, but at the same time, the adoption isn't going to be as intense as I think the media is making it sound.
Very cool. And so, Peter, your background mostly, if I understand correctly, is mostly in the tourism side and all of those different aspects. In the senior living side, you and I have kind of aligned on this. Recruitment is a major issue, and I know it is also in the tourism side. Yeah. How do you think AI can support somebody in the recruitment side of the business?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's actually, so first of all, I'll say, both of, your industry and the tourism industry are both fundamentally, the service industry. And we know that there are labor shortages all over the place. And so, I always talk in tourism about how this is actually going to be a solution to your labor problems, not a problem, right? And so, there's a lot of fear about what's going to happen to my job. Well, I think probably in the senior living space, just like in the tourism space, there's not enough people to do the work.
Right.
And so never mind fear about what's going to happen to my job. It's like, how can we actually use this technology to alleviate the current problems? Now, with respect to recruiting, I think there's incredible use cases and opportunities for AI. So, I just hired somebody. We just talked about that, and I had, first of all, I used AI to write the job description, or to help me write the job description. I used the AI to help me with the interview process. So, I had very specific things I was looking for, and so I worked with ChatGPT and said, prepare me questions to have a good interview, to get to these things. These are the things I'm looking at for this candidate to do for me, and get me good questions to sort of make sure I interview the candidate appropriately, right? So,
Very cool.
And then I actually recorded the entire process. I let him know that I recorded the process, and then I actually took the recording. I took the job description, and I took his resume, and then I asked AI to actually rate basically how he did.
Nice.
And so I got a good, sort of a rating, I guess from the tool based on, this is what you're looking for, this is what he said, this is what the job description said, this looks like a great fit.
That is very, very cool.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something that you mentioned in your first answer. You mentioned augmented reality.
Yeah.
Now, augmented reality is obviously kind of a huge thing that AI is taking on right now. We just saw Apple come out with their new product, which is very, very cool. Do you feel like those types of products and those types of augmented realities will support seniors or support employers or support anybody in the senior living industry, and how that can support?
Yeah. So I think augmented reality is a huge opportunity for this industry in particular, because first of all, in the lead generation side or the ability to sort of bring in new clients, some ability, whether it's augmented reality or some other version of that kind of technology, for people to get a real sense of what it's like in the facility, is a really great opportunity from a marketing and sales perspective, right? But within the space as well, there's going to be, I think, opportunities to use technology to enable, the provision of services, right? And so, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, because I don't see a sort of a senior necessarily putting on Meta's Ray-Ban glasses and whatever. But there's going to be opportunities, for example, to maybe service people a little bit more virtually. So if, let's just say, you're spending time with one client and there's another client that needs your help. I see a future where the AI, some augmented version of sort of a human, will be able to, get some questions answered, sort of, do a bit of a pre-screening with that person while you're, dealing with the other person. And then as soon as you're, so one, it gives the senior who is looking for some help, sort of an immediate opportunity to get some, to talk to somebody. And it also will help to prepare the human then to understand what they're walking into, right? And so, it's not really augmented reality per se, but I think it's sort of the augmentation of, the human experience, if you will. So, it'll allow for, I think, a more seamless kind of service and experience.
It's so cool what you're talking about here, because a couple years ago, at the break of the pandemic, one of the major issues that we faced was the loneliness of seniors. And, this is always going to be an issue, but it was tenfold during the breakout of the pandemic when all the restrictions were in play. And so one of the things that kind of came to light was having all of these video cameras and things like that. We started seeing communities use VR for things like athletics, because they weren't able to get their regular, they weren't able to do their regular workouts and different things like that. So with this augmented reality, if I'm understanding correctly, there's an opportunity then for the senior to potentially have conversations and feel like their family members are there, similar to what you're talking about with the medical side, like the doctors maybe get some, basically get the, what's the word I'm looking for? Get the support that they're looking for from the doctors or the nurses or their family members or however, without necessarily breaching that or having that risk of being in close contact.
That's right, yeah.
Very cool. So can you speak a little bit more to how AI can support somebody with the loneliness? Because we've seen Tesla coming out, we've seen Apple coming out with different tools and things like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my wife's favorite tool is actually called Pi AI. And Pi is a, it's sort of a chat bot similar to a ChatGPT, except for Pi is actually supposed to be more of a personal assistant, more of a, somebody to talk to. So the way Pi talks to you, sort of responds to you, is much more conversational, much more my wife likes it because, it props her up and, hey, you go girl, you're doing great, blah, blah, blah. So it's just a very different sort of way to interact with a chatbot. So I'm going to give you an example of not Pi, but, I actually use ChatGPT. I put in my earbuds and I take my dog for a walk and I have full conversations with ChatGPT, thinking about a strategy or thinking about, help me put together a proposal or a plan or whatever I'm working on. So, and then I have a full conversation with it and it responds and it gives me feedback. And so, it's just like talking to another human, right? And so similarly, in terms of the loneliness question, these tools are amazing. They can hear you, they can respond, they can have a very interactive kind of conversation that sounds and feels very real, right?
Very
so,
cool.
I think that in the senior living, space, there's not enough humans to take care of the number of humans that need help. And so what a great opportunity to use a tool that feels and sounds just like a real human. And again, a Pi is designed to actually interface with you in a way that sort of is much more human. So I think there's great opportunities.
And to your point, there's a stat that's thrown around in the senior living space: 10,000 Americans turn 65 every day. The baby booming population is the largest group, and it's our generation that's going to be responsible for taking care of these guys when they're at the point that they need senior living and so forth and so on. And AI is going to be a major support with that.
It is.
So tell me what you've done with AI to support your agency.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we're kind of, we've been experimenting. And I would just say that, my comment is that by and large, most companies are in the experimentation phase right now. And so what I've told my team is, we're playing with tools. I'm giving my team the opportunity to experiment, play with tools, see how they kind of work and fit. But really what we're doing is we're really rethinking our entire standard operating procedures from beginning to end. And it's less about which tool is the right tool where, and it's more about what problems can we solve? Where are there AI use cases within our current processes and systems? And so we're really rethinking our entire structure as an organization in terms of systems and processes and figuring out where there are opportunities to insert AI. And I keep telling my team, we need to be technology agnostic because the technology keeps changing. So, Google just last week announced that they're going to finally be, coming to Canada with Gemini. And so we're a Google company. And so we haven't been sort of in the game with Google because Google hasn't been here. And so we've been using ChatGPT and other tools. But now, we're obviously going to be experimenting with Google because we use G Suite and that's the kind of company we are. And so I always tell people, don't think about it in terms of, oh, this is the tool that's going to do this for me. Think about it in terms of this is the process I want to improve on. Here's an area where I can, solve a problem. And the tools be agnostic. You can sort of keep changing the tools, and as the tools evolve, you can evolve your processes to change the, sort of get the right tool in the right place. It's going to be sort of messy for the next little while. It's going to be a lot of experimentation. So, it's going to take a lot of time. But that's how we're doing it. And so, for us, and ChatGTP is a great example. We've created custom GTPs for almost every process. So for those who don't know, within ChatGTP, you can actually create something called custom GTPs, which are, sort of custom processes using documents, for example, and using sort of, you can actually put a bunch of prompts and commands into a document, and then you can sort of tell ChatGTP to, go look at this document first, and then go do this, and then go do that. So you can kind of create almost like a bunch of processes that all work together within a custom GTP. And so, we've created custom GTPs for keyword research and SEO, for content frameworks and things like that, for content marketing, right? And so, and then in addition to that, I also belong to a global organization called WSI.
Okay.
And WSI has actually created what we call Genius Tools.
Okay.
And so the Genius Tools are similar to like a custom GTP, but we have Genius Tools that can help with lead generation, ideal customer profile development, sort of a lot of different things. And so really all it is an online form where you answer a bunch of questions, and then it basically uses some no-code and low-code automation, and uses tools like ChatGTP, and then it sort of spits out an output.
Very cool.
And so, and what's important about these processes is that it's never, oh, we're done.
Right.
All it is it sort of enhances what we do. Now a human comes into the loop, analyzes everything, sort of modifies it, and makes it sort of perfect or better for the client, right? So so it speeds us up, makes us more accurate, allows us to use a lot more data and a lot more information to get better outcomes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Peter, from your perspective, tell me about what you feel like how AI is going to support and hurt SEO strategies currently and going forward, with the launch of Baird and all those different things. What do you see coming down the pipe?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that I honestly spend a lot of my time thinking about. I actually had a meeting today with my SEO strategist, and I think first of all, we're going to see a huge explosion of really poor quality SEO content on the internet. So it's just going to get overwhelmed with people that are just pumping it out fast.
Sure.
And so it doesn't actually change. Really what Google's been saying all along is that we need to have authority, expertise, right? So the whole EAT framework, it's actually going to just make that more important. So the conversation I had with my SEO strategist today is around PR, first of all, is going to become much more important again. So it's sort of what's old is new again. And so I really see every brand as needing to really think about themselves and their marketing from a brand building perspective, from a PR perspective. And every company should think about itself as its own media channel. And so what I mean by that, so maybe where we used to write a blog for a client, maybe now I have a 30-minute interview like this with a subject matter expert who's the client. And so here's the process. So I have a meeting with the president. He's an expert on X, Y, and Z. And we record that meeting. We take the transcript from that meeting, and then we write content based on that transcript and that meeting, right?
Sure.
And it's attributed to him. It's authentic content by a real subject matter expert, and it's going to be really important then for the brand also to make sure that it's showcasing its experts on its websites, right? So really, it's not. I don't think it's changing the need to do content, the need to do some SEO, all that kind of stuff, but it's changing, I think, the approach to doing content.
Very cool. And it's so funny, what you said here completely aligns with the webinar we did fairly recently. We were talking about expertise, authority, and trust. We were talking about the helpful content update. We were talking about the Medic update. And all basically, the Medic update's ancient now. But, we're all talking about the same thing. Google basically is just trying to make sure that the best, most authoritative person who makes it as digestible as possible is giving the best content to the user.
That's right.
And to your point, we want to make sure that there's certain aspects that stay in play. Number one, brand identity is definitely a major player, but we want to make sure that if we are using things like ChatGPT or using things like AI to support, that we realize there needs to be some sort of a human element to that to make it authentic. Authenticity is key.
It is. And I would actually just say the more we have sort of AI and robots, I guess, and machines sort of in the mix, the more human authenticity is going to be important. And so it's time to double down on human authenticity, I think, right? And even in the assisted living or seniors living sort of facilities, yes, we can use these tools to augment. Yes, we can use these tools to help support, but hopefully that means we free up more human time to have really good, meaningful human connections, and
Right.
you know what I mean. So hopefully it actually takes some stress off the people who are there to support and allows them to have better, deeper relationships that are actually going to result in a better outcome.
Very, very cool. So Peter, how can AI be used to differentiate one's community?
Yeah, so a couple different things. So first of all, as we talked about before, that authenticity and that sort of digital PR. I think communities really need to start thinking about PR much more deeply. And so one of my favorite sayings now is that for the people that are listening to this and understand kind of SEO and link building, really what brand mentions are the new backlinks. And
right.
so sort of making sure your brand is mentioned in ways that are really authentic in the local community. And so really I think getting back to that local community building, PR, sort of building your brand, being just a great corporate citizen, those are the type, getting back to those basics, I think, from a marketing perspective. Because I think we've kind of gone with digital PR or digital marketing, in my opinion, we've kind of gone a little too far down sort of the technical sort of avenue and route.
Yeah.
And I think we need to kind of bring it back down and say, okay, how do we just be a great corporate citizen? How do we sort of showcase our values in real human authentic ways? And those are, the companies that do that well are the ones that are going to stand out.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Do you see any risks associated with embracing AI for recruitment?
I think that there are not really that many risks on the recruitment side, if I'm going to be honest with you. So again, I think that there's always risks in embracing AI as long as there's not a human in the loop. But as long as you keep a human in the loop, then again, the AI can help you with recruitment, can be sort of a tool, but it's not going to replace, at the end of the day, the recruitment function, right? And so I actually don't see many risks. I mean, I guess there could be risks around trying to use AI to kind of like research deep about a person's background or whatever. There might be some things that people or companies might do that are sort of gray in terms of what they should be doing, but I think those are fairly minor risks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I really liked what you said earlier when you were talking about hiring the gentleman, I believe you said, out of Toronto.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the fact that you recorded this individual, you took their resume, you took the answers, and you basically took all of that information and put it into one to get a score. I find that would be an incredibly valuable feature because you've already gotten the authenticity from the individual from the interview. So you understand that this is somebody that you jive with, you have a good relationship with, and so forth and so on. But if you're hiring somebody to be the expert and it's something that might be out of your skill set, not saying this individual is, but out of your skill set, and you might not know all those factions that exist within that position, taking that information and giving it to ChatGPT to fact check, to make sure that everything is actually in line. Yeah. I think that's a very, very cool thing. And I think in a lot of communities, that's what ends up happening is sometimes if a person has been released or has left the organization and it's time to replace them, the only person who knew how to do that job was the person that was released. And so now it's time to fact check to make sure that everything is actually in line. So I really thought that was a very cool point to hit on.
And I'll add to that and say that, I think in the recruitment process, we often, we get our judgments gets clouded a little bit, right? So, there's a likability, you like somebody and all of a sudden it's like you don't really hear the details of what they say. So, being able to sort of put all of that information into the ChatGPT and letting the machine sort of kind of take away that human emotion, take away all of that, and just sort of analyze the words for what they are, really helps you because it's really the objective that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you sort of take that human emotion out of the loop a little bit, which is actually helpful in the recruitment process.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. That was absolutely awesome. Anybody who would like to reach out to Peter Pilarski, you can reach out to him at CIPR Communications. My name is Joe van Kampen, and I'm with Citizen. You can reach out to us directly at info@citizen55.com or 403-903-3703. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Okay.